Yeah, that's right. Welcome in, welcome back, folks. Thanks for being here. Welcome into let's take a look at some recruiting budget numbers among different conferences and different Power 5 teams and see where they fall and what we could gather from that edition of the Always Irish Show. As always, thanks for being here. Glad to have you. We're on YouTube. Hit subscribe if you haven't yet. Appreciate it very much. Give the video a thumbs up. That helps me as well. Notifications on. You know why. That way you're alerted every time a new episode drops. You don't want to miss it. Twitter, search bar, Always Irish Rat. Always Irish Inc. Emails, alwaysIrishandy@gmail.com. Audio only, anywhere you want me. You can give me a call-in line. You know the deal. 312-900-8815. You tell Johnny all you heard and seen. Fighting Irish Wire you can call me on the call-in line. Except for the one morning, all the calls were fuzzy, and I realized it was from all the lightning in the area, and everything was messed up, and then I had callers I couldn't hear. Anyways, most times, 312-900-8815 is a good way to get a hold of me. Fighting Irish Wire, type it in your computer and then read about Notre Dame football. All right. Very interesting article. I think CBS had it. And what they did is look at the expenditures for the recruiting operation at different major conferences and all the schools and kind of see who spends what in their recruiting budget. So the way they broke this down is by conference and then like the top team in each conference and just did it that way. And then you'll be able to see overall who the most spends the most or whatever. Now, here's the caveat to this is I do not have a Notre Dame number to be able to compare to some of these other numbers because Notre Dame's private and they do not have to reveal those kind of expenditures. So if any of you, I'm sure somebody has a number somewhere of what that annual recruiting budget and expenditure for the recruiting operation for Notre Dame football is. If anybody knows that number, let me know. I'm genuinely interested to see where it falls compared to a lot of these other programs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it up on the screen, the article, and we're going to go down and we're going to go and look at the numbers themselves, some of these teams, and then see if there's anything that surprises us, either with the number or the team by the number, whatever. So that's what we're going to do. So let's get into this. All right, I like this view. Let's go here. All right. SEC stands out as Georgia spends big. Yeah, no kidding. I'm real surprised to hear that. The Dogs have spent over $16 million over the past 6 years. It paid off. And that's only the money you know about. That's the other thing you need to keep in mind. I guess I should mention that, by the way. When we're talking about recruiting expenditures, that is the ones on paper that there's a receipt trail for. A lot of the teams that are going to be found on this list have a lot more money going out for recruiting than's ever reported in these numbers. We're not going to get into this without me saying that. So everybody needs to understand. These are the reported numbers, not the McDonald's bags under grandma's couch cushion, not a duffel bag delivered. No. So these are the ones you know about. Keep that in mind. ACC. 2022 spending, Clemson, just over $3 million, okay, for the year. Now, here's what's interesting. Look at the top ACC schools and then look at the difference here in expenditure. All right, so Clemson's at just a shade over $3 million a year in 22. North Carolina's second, and they don't even have half that. And then you go down from there. I'm a little surprised Florida State's as low as it is, under $1 million. I'm a little surprised by that. But I think the biggest picture takeaway here in the ACC is look at that precipitous drop from number 1 to number 2. I mean, it's half. That's a big drop off in expenditures. Now, here's the other thing we got to mention. I probably should have done it before. But now that we're in this, I'll do it now. Being a team in your conference that spends a lot or the most amount of money on recruiting does not guarantee you success. You have to spend the money the right way. You have to spend it smartly on the right things. So in no way should anybody make a direct equivalency of the teams that are spending more money are going to win and it's a guarantee. That's not the case. However, it does show you what institutions are taking football really serious. That might be what this is most helpful for. I mean, numbers are numbers, but it just tells you who's serious about this and who's just kind of getting by. So with the ACC, you're looking at over $3 million for Clemson, less than half that for the second place team, and only lower from there. I mean, that's just, there's not a competitive balance there. And you know what? I don't see Miami anywhere on there. Maybe theirs must all be NIL or something, because they're not even listed as a top school there. All right, Big Ten. Let's get into the Big Ten. So you got Michigan at almost $2.25 million. So still, less than the Clemson territory, but that would be number one as far as the Big Ten goes. And I don't know the specifics of the arrangement with Jumpman and Nike and all that stuff, but man, Michigan should never be lacking for resources or money or NIL or anything when you have the Jordan Brand deal. They should, I'm not listening to that from them ever. If they don't want to spend it, they don't want to spend it. That's a different problem. That's called the Notre Dame problem. If you have it and don't want to spend it, that's different. But I'm not listening to anybody tell me Michigan or Notre Dame doesn't have that kind of loop. All right. So you have Michigan number one, then a absolute shocker at number two. I don't think anybody in the world would have ever guessed Rutgers has the second most high expenditure as far as recruiting. Well, then I got news for you. You're spending money on the wrong things. You are spending money on the wrong things because you're not good at football. Then you have Penn State, but here's what's interesting. Look where Ohio State is. I mean, they're pretty far down. They're behind Rutgers, Penn State, Maryland. And it's like, oh, what's $10,000 difference at this point? I get it. But when you look at I mean, it's almost $1 million difference between Michigan and Ohio State. And you look at what Ohio State's still able to produce. I think when you're looking at that dynamic, it would make you think they're doing a really good job with where they spend that money and the recruiting and the development part. They're looking at 1.29 and Clemson's up at 3.25. It's a big difference and they're getting pretty good results. So I think in that case study, one is Rutgers. I just can't believe it. Give me the receipts. I want to know what you're spending your money on because it ain't on the right people or things. And then seeing Illinois up there, like whatever. But Ohio State, that one gets me. So they're pretty efficient with their funds. I give them that. All right, moving into the Big 12, we have Oklahoma, Big 12 for now. Oklahoma, 2.6 million. Texas, 2.4. And I don't think either one of those surprise anybody. Like everybody knows the money those institutions have. They got big donor bases, all that kind of stuff. So that doesn't surprise me at all to see those numbers that high. Still below, half, 500-600 grand underneath Clemson of what I've seen is the highest on the list so far. But it shouldn't surprise anybody that Oklahoma and Texas are way up at the top there. What gets interesting is what happens with all of this when they're no longer in that conference. Then what happens? And so I don't see TCU anywhere up here, and they're going to want to be a power player with those other two schools gone. So that's very interesting there. And it's just a big drop off. 2.6 for Oklahoma and then all the way down to 971 for West Virginia. It's just a very clear difference of, again, who is prioritizing this stuff more. It just tells you money's no object. We want to be great at football. Do what you need to do. You'll have the money. That's what this all tells you. It tells you the institutions buying the football program and they all want it to be elite and they're willing to spend the money and they have good donor networks and everything. That's what you take out of seeing these top teams. Okay, Pac 12. All right, so you got 1.8 and it's Oregon, and that's number one. Now, that shouldn't surprise anybody because everybody knows where the money that goes into Oregon comes from. When you have Phil Knight, Nike money, then you should be number one in your conference. Then we got Washington. I can't believe Arizona's up there at 1.3. Again, I don't know what you're getting for your money. I don't see USC anywhere on here because theirs is all probably NIL and it's not counted this way. Um, so that's what I see with the Pac 12 is I don't see USC anywhere on this list. And they are certainly not struggling to find five-star guys seemingly every time I open up Twitter, unfortunately. Uh, now, here's where the big boys come in. The good old SEC. Look at Georgia. $4.5 million last year. $4.5 million last year. Texas A&M almost 3 million. Tennessee almost 3. Alabama 2.25 almost. Florida. All right, so at least you got like a bunch of teams well over 1 million here, and by far the most teams with that amount, millions going in it. This is the most I've seen on the list that have millions, and again, that tells you the investment that these institutions put into football being great. No, it is not a guarantee that you're going to be great, but having more money and resources to improve your company, your brand, your school, your business, whatever, it can only help. It helps your odds when spending isn't an issue. 4.5 million. 4.5 million. Now, here's what's interesting. Scroll down. There's old Brian Kelly down there. 742 grand. They're cheaping out in the Bayou Bengal Brian. How dare you? How dare you? But look at that. 4.5 million a year. And you win a championship or two. And that 4.5 million pays you back 1,000 times in value in perpetuity from having a couple championships. Like, if you could do this and make it work, you're going to be in a great, great, great spot. So I would love to know what you guys make of this. I think, again, my big takeaway is spending this money does not guarantee you elite success, but it does show that the organization is willing to do all that it takes to put you in a position to be great. It just shows full support from the people who come up with this money at those places that empowers the football program and the head coach to do what they want to do. Now, this is kind of a hard thing to look at in totality without knowing Notre Dame's numbers. I don't know where they fall. I don't know where Notre Dame's numbers fall in the big picture, all this. The other thing you could say is, what if somebody like Oregon has a very high number for recruiting expenditures because they live in Oregon, and to go see anybody else in the country, you kind of got to fly far to go because you're way up in the middle and you can't go any further west. So maybe some of that is cost of having to fly all over is more if you're not central in the middle of the country. I don't know. I'm just thinking of what it could be. But that's what I think is interesting. There is just a huge difference between the haves and the have-nots, and the willings and the not willings to put money forward in this endeavor. So I would love to hear any takeaways you guys have from this, what you gather from it, or it doesn't mean much to you, or what does it tell you? And also, again, if anybody has the Notre Dame number, I'd be really interested to know, just to see where it falls in this big picture mosaic. Money talks, guys. Money talks, and you know it. Georgia spent a lot of it, and it totally paid off. It $4.5 million to get a championship, it lives forever. That's invaluable. Like, you could double it, make it 10 million. I'll say it's worth it. Like, championships live forever. It's invaluable. It lives forever. So good job by them. And again, that's only the money you hear about with Georgia. That's only the money you hear about with Georgia. It really probably is double that amount when you take into account all the actual money. Have a good one.